Welcome to another edition of Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Robert Winters.
Judy Nathans.
And today is January 21st, 2020. Perfect 2020 vision.
And we're here even though there's no city council meeting to discuss because of Martin Luther King Day, but we'll figure stuff out.
We're going to spend hours talking about the weather.
Yeah.
And
or the weather.
And who's going to be the next Red Sox manager?
Oh my gosh, that one.
What is the latest rumor? Is Jason Varitek really a possibility?
Well, I've heard he works for the team. He does? You didn't know that? Oh yeah, he's
well, he has a lot of old boys,
a
lot of old ball players too.
Right, but he is actually based here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because he's never managed any teams, they're not sure about that.
Probably better to bring somebody who's been doing some. But
he would be a favorite because he would be what they call player/manager, which is what they like.
Yeah.
That's what Alex was. I think Tito was that too. He used to be a player.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I think the crowd would like it. It would sort of like ease the pain, but you could see that coming. I mean, I'm sorry when you heard about the stuff with Houston and the banging of and then Carlos Beltran. He's out.
Yeah,
didn't even start yet as the Mets manager.
I know. My brother. I was talking to my brother who's in New York and goes to Mets games and things. Yeah. And I said, wow. And as well as my oldest friend. He wasn't even named at all,
but he was. He just did the right thing.
Yeah.
Well, the Mets did the right. No, I don't know what happened first. Anyway.
Right. Now, I got a phone call the other night from. Well, I got one from my brother, but I also got my friend Freddie Rich, who I've known forever.
And he lives in New York.
No, he lives in California now, but we were like best buddies growing up, going to elementary school together. But
so you were Mets fans?
We were both Yankees fans, actually.
Yankees fans.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Forgive me.
I
didn't know what I was thinking.
I was a Mets fan.
Hey, the city manager of Cambridge is a big Yankees fan.
Yeah, I know.
Don't forget that.
And they came before them. The Mets were like 65. They were like one of the newer teams.
The 1962 was the expansion year.
Right.
I think American League added 2 teams in 61 and National League in 62.
Yeah, and I became a Mets fan after that.
I lived closer to the Shea Stadium for the Mets, but I was always a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
So until I came here, and yes, I became a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
So.
So what do your friends say? They have
well, there wasn't much to say other than you could kind of see it coming with Beltran, and.
Do they think they know who's gonna?
No, not really. Not really. The thing is, I'm of the old school baseball, which is that, everybody cheats, everybody throws spitters, everybody does this and that.
Well, they say that. It's the
technology.
It's the technology that has, with the watches.
When you turned it into this whole...
Well, I guess banging a trash can, is that technology? Although it's because they had the signals from an electronic device,
right.
I guess.
Yeah. They had a whole system with multiple players. It was like a conspiracy to cheat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
bad. Bad stuff. Seriously bad stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so that's baseball. And I'm still looking, what is it, 22 days or something to pitchers and catchers. Still, in spite of it all, still looking forward to some baseball.
Wait. You know who I'd love to see, but I haven't heard his name because I think he's out, is, the Cubs fired Madden. Joe.
All right.
I think he's out of baseball, but I'd love him. I think he's great.
It's good baseball, man.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll see what happens.
We do have the Red Sox Cubs
I know.
Going,
well, they've got Theo, and they have John Lester, and they have they won with John Lester and the other pitcher we sent to them from here. What's it, John Lackey?
Right.
Yeah. Plus, anyway.
Who has the same birthday as me, by the way.
No. Yeah. John Lackey?
I don't know about year, but day.
Day. Okay. Cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Actually, it was one year there were 3 Red Sox on the roster with the same birthday as me.
Did they win that year?
No.
Oh.
I think that was the last year where the chicken, the fried chicken scandal.
And then Theo went to the Cubs.
Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. Well.
This is crazy
last
stuff.
Sports thing. You have any interest?
And you thought we were going to talk about Cambridge stuff.
Well, NFL, any interest?
Not that much. I like watching occasional football games, but I've never really been a fan.
Talk about ex-New England. I mean, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, who we traded.
Yeah.
Much better looking, I think, than Tom Brady. But that's my opinion. He's playing against Kansas City. So I actually, either one of them.
I wish him well.
Yeah. Because they both have good teams. And
yeah.
Kansas City, 50 years. So
yeah, all right.
Anyway, okay.
All right,
back
so a
to
few
Cambridge. Do we have any sports teams? Basketball's pretty good.
I once talked to, I think it was Richie Rossi, maybe it was Louis DiPasquale as well, about, we were just talking freely.
Yeah.
And I expressed, my idea that, before all the North Point development was all set in stone. And I said, what we really could use would be a minor league baseball stadium over there. And they both went, yeah. It was like,
you didn't hear the latest from Worcester? What it's costing them?
No. They go up.
Well, right now it's like $100-something million, and the city's responsible for a third. It's pretty high.
Well, even if they did and I think there was some talk some years ago about an East Somerville access through the old Inner Ring Road. Not Inner Ring. What do they call that? The whatever it was called.
Yeah.
But in there it was like having like a serious soccer stadium. But I don't think any of this stuff's ever going to really happen.
Well, where they talk about soccer is down by that where they wanted to put Fenway Park. Where is it? Down by.
Down
that area where they had the flower mart and all that. That's something circle, Winnett Circle or something with a W.
Yeah.
But what about Suffolk Downs? That would be a great.
I think so too.
Everybody wanted Amazon to come to some of those places, and they didn't. So let's have a stadium.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. As long
as they don't have to pay for it.
Right,
Get
which
the
is sometimes what happens. Exactly.
Enough money out there.
All right, so what are some things happening these days?
We have a new city school committee person.
We do. I'm going to say one thing just quick,
okay.
without getting into any numbers, because I kept track of all the campaign finance stuff.
As you do.
Partly
the
to
state does, but you pay attention to it.
It's partly to make a point, but also because it's a little bit of a tiny little research project of how much does it actually cost to run a successful campaign, and where does the money come from? So, what kind of implied bias within the system is there? Because one thing I guarantee is going to become an issue in the next year or two. Will the whole, it'll come back again, is this issue of, of publicly financed municipal election campaigns, which I'm still not sold on the idea at all.
I'm not sold when we have 25 candidates.
Very much, yeah.
We have to have a higher threshold.
Yeah, or even what form it would take or whatever. I'm just, I'm saying, go ahead, try and convince me, but I'm just not there. Mm-hmm. But I think it's inevitable that discussion will revive again. Mm. So, I kind of figured, well, let me just keep a serious track of it all. Not that anybody could just look up a lot of this stuff, but
they don't care as much.
But also I wanted to look at sort of the finer points about where the money was coming from or whatever.
You know that.
And just to sort of see. Mm-hmm. But one of the things, in addition to all these, every other, twice monthly bank reports that candidates have to, that the bank accounts report to the Office of Campaign Political Finance. They still have to do their year-end reports. So the deadline was January 20th, and there's still several candidates. I think Patty Nolan, Quentin Zondervan, Ben Simon, and maybe one organization who still hasn't filed, though, maybe between 3-something and now, maybe they have.
Yeah.
I'll just there's not much really to see about that. There's also Sukiya Akiba. Jeffrey McNary didn't raise or spend money, so he wouldn't have to. But Patty Nolan, Ben Simon, and Quentin Zondervan still hadn't actually filed the paperwork. Several of them, 3 or 4 of them, including the mayor, filed their reports today, a day late, but that's okay.
You probably read your report.
Well, maybe. I mean, honestly, I do this at least a little bit as a bit of a nudge.
It's probably on their calendar. Got to do it by this. It's not that important.
And just to sort of see the scale of things, it's sort of interesting. Now, I think arguably one of the sort of the big civic political items of this past week was they finally did have the vacancy recount to fill the seat vacated by Emily Dexter, right? I could say a million things about that. It's not how I think things should have worked out.
I know, that's unfortunate.
Right, but the thing is that a good man was elected to replace her. David Weinstein, who I met actually when he first ran as a candidate. Was it?
He was on our
3
show,
elections? Yeah, he was on the show.
A few cycles ago.
I've met his family, and actually now his kids are more grown. When I saw them all. But I have to tell you, it's kind of funny. So as many people know, I get the ballot data, and as soon as I can get it in November, right? And one of the things I do, partly as a test, is I just see who the
in case
who would
somebody left.
For the 9 city councilors who would be there, each of their replacements, for the 6 school committee members, elected school committee members who would be their replacements. So I'd already done this, and people had asked me, well, who would replace Emily Dexter should she choose to resign? And so it was known. But one thing I never told anybody was the numbers. I never posted them, whatever. It? And I actually kind of find it funny that people would say, well, who would be the replacement? And I just said, well, it'd be David Weinstein. And they say, well, and by the way, it's a David Weinstein and Rachel Weinstein.
Well,
did I get that right?
You know what? You think people are going to remember that?
I know,
always pronounced that name, no matter who it is, Weinstein.
When they do the roll call votes, though, at the school committee, they'll have to say Stein and Steen.
It's like tomato. I'm sorry.
Really?
As long as they spell it right, to me that's important.
Yeah, it should be just fine.
It's not like it's some foreign name that you really have to be careful.
Yeah.
Say it.
So here's the thing that was kind of funny though, for me personally. Now I'm pretty confident about my ability to work with ballot data and run election software. I don't really doubt myself all that much.
Is this online here somewhere?
Yeah, it is actually. Actually it is. If you scroll down a little bit.
All right.
So the thing is, so I go to the recount. So I've sort of the world knows now what the result is going to be. So you're sort of going through the formality of a vacancy recount procedure, and there's like real tension in the room, whatever. But everybody knows what the result's going to be. And the only candidate who actually showed was David Weinstein because essentially the results was known. Right. But here's the funny thing for me is that there's just enough little self-doubt that I wondered, could I have made a mistake? Could I have made a mistake? What if everybody sort of got all their hopes built up? David's here with his family, his children, and whatever, and then I messed up, right? There's just a little bit of doubt.
You didn't realize.
No, I knew it wasn't
so why
realistic.
don't you show this?
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm sitting there the whole time, and they don't know, is it going to be is it going to be a razor thin margin? Is there going to be some question about it or whatever? And and I've got this in my little folder right there. I'm sitting next to David Weinstein at the meeting. Yeah. And I just said to myself, I'm not going to pull this out until it's actually made official. Right. So I'm sort of sitting there like it sort of felt like it was like cheating. Like I have the results here, and everybody's getting all nervous or whatever. And then and only when they announced the result did I just pull that out and handed a copy to David.
This is interesting. So it looks Lecce Cadete would have been next.
Right. So the thing is that there's
under her count. Under Dexter's.
So there are 2,776 ballots. Now, the way it works is, technically...
these are the total ballots that they looked at.
Valid ballots, yeah. So now, quote is a meaningless thing here because you're only electing one person anyway, but there were 926 ballots that had no... Remember, the only candidates who are eligible in this situation here are candidates who were not elected already in November. So there were 6 elected, which means there were 5 people who were not. So it's just...
You had to see if her ballots went to those people?
Right, so they were initially distributed to the next available choice. Okay. So there were 926 ballots, didn't have any of these 5 listed, so they were exhausted right on the first round.
I see.
There were 4 write-ins, and and they kind of spread around, but David Weinstein had almost 100 ballot advantage at the start, and that pretty much remained throughout.
I see.
So it was kind of the die was cast.
Slowly, then these people get exhausted.
Yeah, the second count is sort of a non-count. It was just sort of a formality. There were actually no defeated candidates. So
where's the count that matters?
It's the limb at the end of the limb transfer.
All the way down here.
Right. So when Ruth Ryan Allen's counted out, if you just sort of look, David's up to 542. You count out Burnett Dawson. The numbers change a little bit, but not that much. David's actually still getting a bigger advantage. It only widens the margin there. Right. And then when Chris Lim gets counted out, Lecce gets a little tiny bit of an advantage, closes the margin, but it was never really in doubt.
Interesting.
But it was funny to me how nobody actually was asking how close was it? Close was it? Like did he win by 5 votes or 1,000 votes?
But he won by quite a few.
It was about 100. So it was really never in question. But I'm sort of sitting there holding that thing with just that little bit of doubt. And then when they actually looking at passing around the transfer sheet, I'm going. There's a little piece of me goes, whew, thanks. Yeah. Because even if I was off by 1 ballot, I would have felt bad.
Right. Right.
So, my reputation is still intact.
Right.
Really, it's the same software, same data.
Yeah.
How could it possibly have been any
Right.
different, right? So anyway, it was very, very nice. And,
Can we go back to something around the city council and money
Sure.
and everything? Is there anything in your data, maybe we've talked about this before, but I don't remember. Can you really see, could you see who donates or who is getting money?
Yes, you can.
Does developer money play a part in any winning
Yes,
candidates?
in my opinion, very much. But
Does.
the thing is that
How do you determine developer, by the way? By their name, by,
It's,
or if it's an individual that,
the way it
owns
works
a lot of
under
real
state
estate.
law is that when you make a contribution,
Yeah.
you're supposed to name your employer
oh, right, that's
and
true.
your profession,
That's right.
whatever.
Right.
Now, sometimes it's a little tricky
It is
because
tricky.
if you're John Smith, head of mega corporation,
But you're not
development.
donating in that name, you're donating
Well,
from your own funds.
no,
Well,
but even
see-
if it is, you're
Yeah.
not donating. You could. I think you still donate your own funds. But the thing is, if it's
yeah.
your company, your funds and the company's funds are kind of intertwined anyway, in the
Well,
sense
you're
that
paid by them, but
well,
that's
in the
still, as
sense
an
that-
individual, you have a right to select who you want, no?
right. But the thing is that if you're working from some big company and
Yeah.
you stand to personally profit from the
I
development of the
see, and
company,
they can make the connection.
yes. So, for example, Lime Properties is one. Forest Cities. These aren't the big ones today,
So
by
you
the
have
way.
to know who those individuals are.
Yeah, so that's where you kind of have to.
Do you?
Yeah, for the most
All
part,
right,
I do.
okay.
Not always. So actually, there were a couple of other people who actually said, your numbers are a little short because you really should know that this person here is really the person who's working, kind of fronting for this particular development
Interesting.
interest. And then then you have to verify that that's actually true because you can't just take somebody's word for it.
Is a property owner different from a developer? Say they just own a lot of property in
Yeah.
Cambridge?
Right. So that's
And
also
they're not developing necessarily, but they're maintaining, or they buy,
a perfectly valid question or issue to raise is
Yeah.
so Robert Winters owns a 3-family house. He's a property owner.
Yeah,
If
but
I
that's
stood
just
to
one-
gain from a city policy, should
Yeah.
I be considered in
Yeah.
the same category as developer? You have to make a judgment call at some point.
I would say if you own more than 10 units of housing, maybe.
Right, but
Maybe.
But what you're then saying is you have to draw lines, even if it's a
Yeah.
little bit arbitrary. But you try and be reasonable, and I've always tried to be very reasonable. So, and the thing that makes it even harder is there are some people who are clearly, in my view, donating money purely because they really do believe and trust in candidates. It's not necessarily because they're trying to influence things. And then there are others where it's pretty obvious they're trying to influence legislation.
Yeah,
I
but
think
maybe
it's
they're
obvious.
supporting the candidate that would affect maybe not, but they're playing.
Yeah.
A lot of these big places give to
it's
several people.
I know, but the thing is that let's say you're a person who's a developer and your childhood best friend happens to be a candidate.
Yeah.
So I'll actually not count that in. I'll make a judgment call on something like that. But.
So you think it's effective? You think they can buy votes?
It's not so explicit.
No, I mean,
But it's.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say buy votes, but I would say have a
Influence.
somewhat more weighty influence on things. Honestly, some
but
people
maybe those candidates are already pro development anyway.
That's true. Right.
So
In
you're
which case-
basically
So
supporting a
so
candidate
you're
that
basically
thinks
getting
like you.
rewarded for your policy position by
Right.
those.
It's not
who
like
have a
you're
lot of money.
changing your policy position because of
Exactly.
that. I mean,
exactly.
So, it
So
really,
what's happening is you have sort of an industry, if you will,
Yeah.
is then supporting candidates handsomely.
You could say that about the legal profession, or
You
about
could.
doctors,
You're
or
a-
about if
and-
there's health. I
and
mean,
there
that
are
happens on the national level
right.
a lot too.
And there are some candidates who are lawyers who've worked for law firms, and some lawyers are rather well paid, and they're very quickly write those $500 and $1,000 checks. So they're, but you can chase down every possible cause for excess influence. But for me, this past election cycle, I said, well, I'm interested in two things. Well, three things. One is how much of your money is coming from Cambridge.
Well, that's very important.
Right.
Yes.
Then the other one was how much is coming from clearly identifiable real estate interests. And some people gave me grief for this, how much was coming from unions. Because to me, it was the scale of it all is what I found dazzling, is very, very, very large sums of money coming from unions.
But that's been a given for years in all kinds of elections.
But it's not uniformly distributed amongst candidates. So it's basically rewards incumbents primarily. And it's sort of like, we like the fact that you've done this, so now you're going to have $6,000 extra in your campaign.
Okay, but unions, some of those unions were the carpenters unions and people, so they're basically, you could tuck them in with the real estate people.
That was part of the intention
jobs,
as well. And a lot of times when there is some either a zoning petition on the table, or to get some approval to do some major development, sometimes the developers and the legal staff will actually recruit people from the labor unions to come and speak on behalf of the upzonings. So there's some influence.
Oh, no, I see that a lot.
I mean, I tried my best not to overstate it, but I think it was valid data to put out there.
Are these union people that, is it the union separate from the people that lived in Cambridge and belonged to these unions?
All right, now, I mean, I don't have all the knowledge about this, but I do know some things about this, which is some of the people who are making decisions about it's not like the rank and file are sent a ballot, like which candidates shall we donate money to. That's not how it works. There are certain people who are basically part of the political decision-making process who decide, and some of them are very politically connected.
Well, and yes, and unions can be that way, but I do remember at the testimony...
up to and including former elected officials, I might add.
Yeah.
So, so I just thought it was a relevant piece of information. People can interpret it any way they wish.
You could see, the whole contingent of West Cambridge people are kind of like union of their own, which they give money and they support. So it really, you
honestly,
wonder about that. They live here, others live here.
Listen, that has always been kind of a nagging thing. Even from I remember in the days of Al Vellucci, it's like those, or even Eddie Sullivan going way back into the 1940s and 50s. Yeah. This notion about the CCA, the Cambridge Civic Association, tended to be more representative of West Cambridge people who are a little bit better off.
We like to belong to groups.
Yeah, and then and they could have
a lot of
excess influence as a result. Because they were some.
Well, the Cambridge
wealthier
Citizens
property
Coalition is sort of on that.
I think it's a fair criticism to say that because a lot of the people who were riled up about the overlay proposal last year, a lot of them were people who were property owners. So and being a property owner in Cambridge today means you probably can be considered wealthy by most standards.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's the way it goes. So elections are influenced.
Yeah.
I just think people just should be aware of it and maybe just sort of get at least some sense of it all.
Just watch your candidates after the fact and see if they, what they do.
Now, one of the funny things that happened when I was, after the David Weinstein vacancy recount election was completed, everybody said, congratulations, see you. By the way, he's going to be sworn in about 7 minutes.
Oh, that's right, Tuesday night. Is this a formal meeting?
Yeah, formal meeting of the Cambridge School Committee. So congratulations, David.
I think I'll go home and watch it.
At 6. Well, no, this is 6 o'clock. You can't. You got to stick here for another half hour.
No, but it goes. It's a formal meeting. It's go on beyond.
Oh, it'll be it'll be going
I won't
on.
See
yeah, David will be a sitting member.
That's
beginning at 6 o'clock.
To just see what it looks like.
I mean that's the way it works. When
I'm glad there's a guy there because otherwise it's just Fred. Because the mayor sits in and it's a woman and it's all women. So
it's just 2 out of 7.
So now Fred and David. Good.
Yeah. Stick up for the guys.
Balance.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Really. I want to believe that regardless of the composition, either gender-wise, racial-wise, that 7 people on the city council are capable of representing everybody. No. Come on, please.
I know.
Or is it just what you look like that determines who you represent?
You do have to have a balance.
I know, but that's for appearances' sake.
You only can
life
be,
experiences.
You only can be what you can see.
Perhaps so.
Whatever expression it is, like if you don't see yourself.
But ultimately, it is the responsible of all elected officials in an at-large system.
Tell that to the Congress, who are now still speaking and not listening and not doing our job.
Absolutely,
they're not doing their job.
Yes.
You know.
So here's one thing that was sort of funny, and so let's go to the 20,000 thing.
Oh yeah, the 20,000 thing.
So
yeah,
one of the
like
things
that.
I do is I keep election archives. You know, thank you very much. You know, you can send me a postcard saying thank you. But I was updating things after all the long time list going back to 1941, and I actually found a list that I got from Glenn Kuchar, and I just dutifully keeping it up some years, which the total number of #1 votes over your entire time as a candidate, and who's the biggest. Now, no surprise to anybody who knows about this is Walter Sullivan would have to be the all-time leader, right? But the thing is that I was kind of interested when I was sort of going through it here just to sort of see when I updated it. Yeah. So up at the very top there's Walter Sullivan. And by the way, the fact that he got them all as city council is really kind of extraordinary. But he was there for
so
over
this
3
covers
decades.
41 to 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. So just freshly updated.
Total #1 votes cast.
You typically have more votes because there are fewer candidates for school committees, so you can usually run them up faster on school committee.
That's true.
But interestingly, in addition to a lot of people that some people never heard of, but many people have, there's Freddie Fantini, Tim Toomey is on the list. These are people who make 20,000
Tim was
votes
on the
total
school committee
for first 2 or 3 terms. Yeah. And then Denise Simmons.
She was also on the school committee.
Right. And as you work your way down to the very last, look who squeaked in at 20,000. Patty Nolan.
Patty Nolan. Wow.
Patty Nolan, who's freshly elected to the Cambridge City Council.
Well, she sneaked in because of the city council vote. Yeah.
Yes.
1685.
But she also had a lot of votes when she was on the school committee. Right. She was always top vote getter or whatever.
That's great.
So welcome to the 20,000 Club, Patty.
Okay.
So anyway, we have more things we could talk about
in
the next half hour here. Not all related to elections,
no,
but
the impeachment.
You bet. See you in a few minutes.
Bye.